Whoa, we're back to some Mirrors High discussion, I guess, and I wanted to talk about the Mirrors High beta and why there haven't really been videos on it. After day one, I didn't really think there was anything to say, actually. It was one of the least content-packed mobile game betas I've probably ever played. There's a 6-hour cooldown on using your characters in PvP, which is Arena, and let me just like put this plainly. I have no problem with an arena mode. If you guys don't know this, the Epic 7 arena, which is PvP AI, is also called Arena. And then there's RTA, the real-time arena, where you play against actual people controlling their characters at the same time as you. So I don't really have an issue with there being a PvP AI arena and then there being a real-time arena. You know, you set your characters on defense, your team fights against someone else's team, and they're just doing a daily, and that's not super crazy at all. It means you need multiple teams to clear that mode. If there is no real-time arena, this is, and like, your characters are on a 6-hour cooldown, that's going to be awful. Other than that, I was really let down by how little there is to actually do, considering Bleach Soul Resonance felt like a much more complete game. And while a lot of people have said that, well, it's a closed beta test, they're probably not even releasing the game until 2027, I do remember a lot of reports saying that they were looking for a 2026 launch. Now, that could be anything. That could be just, you know, blind rumors, accusations, what have you. So we don't have to like take that at face value and just be like, well, that's just what that is. The game's just going to release like this. Nothing like that. But even still, even as a closed beta test, I was like, wow, you can finish this closed beta test in like 2 or 3 hours. Like, there is nothing to do. And while I think that's like, I guess that's fine if as a closed beta test, I just expected us to be able to play against each other for the remainder of that time. And yeah, I figured we'd go and look at what other people are feeling and just comment on that. We have a thread here by one of the mods just saying that, hey, if you want to talk about Bleach, you know, Mirrors High in more detail, you can go over here. But here we can just have a little discussion on the Bleach Soul Resonance Megathread. I did check this subreddit. There just isn't much there. There's like no community there. So I figured I'd look at the Bleach Soul Resonance crowd, see how they're feeling. Endgame, I do want to say, like, overall I am excited for the game. This didn't like, this CBT being sort of, I don't know, just being a little lame didn't sour my excitement for Bleach Mirrors High or anything. But I was sort of, like, I was really amped to do this for like 7 days. Because Bleach Soul Resonance beta, I played for like 7 days. You know what I mean? I played like the entire time. It was great. So we'll see. A little spoiled by BSR. I know right now, not to switch back, there has been a real upsurge in people who have been getting a little confident about like Mirrors High and really getting down on Bleach Soul Resonance. I'm not saying you can't have your problem with Bleach Soul Resonance, but there has been some real confidence with Mirrors High. And this beta was not what they thought it would be. They can talk like it's what they thought it would be, but it's not what they thought it would be. It's not what they thought it would be. It's not what they thought it would be. This was not Bleach Soul Resonance beta. I'll say that. It was not. It was not what they thought it would be. It wasn't what I thought it would be. And as you know, but we got someone saying, I got into the beta, but I'm still skeptical. If it's anything like Dragon Ball Legends, it's going to be a hard pass for me, dog. I mean, yeah, it's so a lot of people in this similar position. The story customization, yeah, the story was fun. It's like a, you know, your mileage may vary, right? It's a pretty generic, but it's in an IP that we all like, so you know that does make it fun. I say it all the time. I do wish that every time we got to make our own character, and I know why they do this. It's because the median age of a shonen fan to them is usually like a, you know, it's a 13 to 15-year-old or what have you. I really wish that every single time we got to make a character in one of these games, we didn't have to be Aether. We didn't have to be the Traveler or whatever from Honkai Star Rail. We didn't have to be I don't know, but whatever they call an Arknights, the commander or whatever, I don't know. It's always like you're always like a short, like little guy or a short girl. ZZZ is another one. You're never like you never really get to be like Kenpachi. You know what I want? You know what I mean? Like my optimal OC player character would have been Giru, like the character they literally put in the game, Giru, where he's like delinquent coded. But it is sort of sad that we're just sort of back to that style again, because like this is a shonen. Like one of the things I really like about Shallot is you can say whatever you want if you don't like Dragon Ball, but at least Shallot is like a Dragon Ball character, right? He's like a character who looks like he fits in the setting, whereas like the player character for Mirrors High looks like a character taken from Genshin that you customize. It's like this is Tite Kubo makes huge dudes who are cool, but I'm playing like a dude who's smaller than Toshiro. Like what happened? I don't know. I'm always a little disappointed that there's no option for stuff like that. Like Shallot is literally the only one who gets to be anything more than like an Aether clone. But yeah, the story's been interesting so far. What little they've shown off, but I don't think the combat is for me. Yeah, the combo feels a little. The combat feels a little. The combat rather feels a little laggy. Feels a little laggy a lot of times. And here's like the thing. It would be fine if the combat was a little janky, but I was playing against someone. But the fact that I'm playing against bots, like, you are not queuing against anyone in that game. You are queuing against bots with a 6-hour delay on using your characters. Why is it laggy at all? Like, what is with the delay on movement? I'm not saying the game can't get better pretty quickly. You know, these aren't... When a new fighting game comes out, or is in beta rather, there are a lot of times where people are like, the game is DOA, no one's going to play this game, it's ruined, and there will never be a point where it gets better. And it's like, no, it could take literally a patch right before they release it that could fix a lot of the problems. I think they actually have the good bedrock. I think Giku and others that I've seen were right when they say this is like a definite 6 out of 10 so far, just based on visual clarity and the systems that could look better, right? That could be better. But the fact that there are just this lingering, I don't know, this lingering sort of stickiness, this lingering sort of annoyance in the game. I don't know. It's the part that makes it the most frustrating to play, I feel like. But we got DM Gaming on YouTube. I'm gonna flash their name on screen because if they're on YouTube, I'm sure they want people to go over there. So I got into beta. These are my thoughts so far. If anyone wants to add on or dispute any of my notes, and I'm more than happy to answer questions anyone else has as well. Even as a mobile game, the presentation feels very similar to Bleach Rebirth of Souls. The text before battle starts, the end screen, etc. I would say this is fine. Like, if you look like a good version of like a Bleach Sparking Zero, that's fine. I think the aesthetic of Bleach Rebirth of Souls, and I'm not like debating them on their opinion. I'm just speaking out loud or thinking out loud. I think if you look like a pretty fun arena fighter whose like main problem isn't the actual presentation, that's not too bad. There's only one chapter so far. It seems very narrative heavy, though it could vary as more content releases. It starts off with about 15-ish graphic novel style cutscene levels. It only has around 5 fights between them, including the tutorial missions. Yeah, that is like another part where it's like, is there gonna really, if this game is PvP AI and like a graphic novel story, that's another thing, is like, what am I pulling characters to do? Like 6 hours a day to use my character once? Like, imagine you pull, Hogyaku Ichigo, who's evil now, villain Ichigo, SSR. It took you all of your currency that you saved up for 2 to 3 months because it's a Japanese gacha, so you have to skip. and then you use him once in PvP AI, and then he's on cooldown. Very odd. Very, very odd. Very odd if that ends up being the case. Again, I don't think it will be, but I do think it's very odd. The other thing about that, like, as a segment, is that in Epic 7, you can buy more of the flag, so you can use more PvP AI, but in the beta, you can only use your pulling resource, your pulling currency. That is a bad fucking sign, I will say that. There should be some kind of flag, some kind of extra exchange system, if there isn't already. Maybe I just missed it, but we'll see. Dodging doesn't feel great and relies on really fast reactions. You dodge by flicking the screen in the direction you want to go, but I've been finding that by the time you see your enemy about to attack, you've already lost your window, more so when you're playing as a close-range fighter. I think dodging is kind of fine. You get also a good, and I'm not saying, again, they can have their opinion on this, is mine. I think dodging felt fine in terms of a mechanic, visual clarity, and like I do play a lot of fighting games. Maybe that's just I have a lower reaction time than people. That could be it. There's also like the counter mechanic that you see happen as they come to attack you. There's like a little bit of a startup and you can see the counter. That stuff is cool. The issue with dodging not feeling great is it's not actually like a fast reaction test. It is so like, and this is like a kind of like I don't play Smash Brothers, but this is something that like Smash players say, the move is laggy. There's a lot of, which typically in fighting games usually means a lot of recovery frames. But in this case, it doesn't feel like recovery frames. It feels like some kind of input lag affects the dodge. It feels like the dodge is really inconsistent. When you flick to dodge in Dragon Ball, Legends, I was like in my head I wanted to call it Dokkan Battle Legends so bad, but Dragon Ball Legends, when you flick, you go, you immediately dodge, you sidestep. If you do a little bit of a you sidestep. If you press and drift, you sidewalk. In Mirrors High, the thing I was feeling is I was stuttering. I wasn't getting the walk. I wasn't getting the sidestep all the time. That is the real problem I'm feeling, is that there is an unresponsiveness in this game that I believe will be handled. I don't think it's impossible, but as of right now, if we're just talking about the beta experience, there is an unresponsiveness in Mirrors High that is essentially unforgivable when it comes to releasing something that might be played against other players. That would be my biggest thing to look out for, because one of the things I like is that the game is really different from Dragon Ball Legends. But if one of the ways it's different is that it's not responsive, I'm gonna like lose my mind a little bit. Aside from switching characters into combos, I'm not finding that there's much opportunity for actual combos. You can use your abilities, standard attacks, but you can't select cards while using an ability attack like Dragon Ball Legends. There's a brief pause between skills that make things feel kind of slow. The combat and Soul Resonance felt a bit faster to me. I mean, combat and Soul Resonance feels obviously faster, no matter what you say. I mean, undeniably. The combos feel a little janky. I would like some more fluidity. The fact that you can't like essentially sequence cards feels weird. In Dragon Ball Legend, there's sort of like a key charging that lets combos feel like kind of fluid animation cancel-y, and it actually is a part of the skill of the game. In this game, I think it looks like it's going to be more about managing card resources. So I use cards to attack you, you use cards to attack me. Like in a card game, I'm not going to cash out all of my cards immediately. I might be holding back a card so that I have like a 97% of winning the clash, the counter, what have you, right? I could see that being a very important part of it, sort of like sequencing and moving characters around very skillfully and sort of whittling down resources. I'm fine with that. That's a card game. In you do something, I do something, and we try to counter that something in response, right? So that's a card game. I'm fine with that. But the fact that the sequence of attacks into one another don't feel very fluid could be changed, and I'm hoping it does. I mean, again, this is all discourse that's meant to highlight like things I would like to see change before the game releases. Who knows until how long that will be. There seems to be a decent amount of customization. You get to design an original story to play as, and you change their appearance of your Zanbakuto. You already know how I feel about this. Aside from the main character and the 3 new ones, it also appears that you can unlock Ichigo, Chad, Matsumoto, Byakuya, Renji, Orihime, Yoryu, Bambietta, Rukia, Grumjo, Hitsugaya, and Yoruichi. I'm sad not to see Sajin Komura. Sad not to see any Ikaku. Not that I remember. It's hard to judge the gacha elements at this point since there isn't much playable content. Rewards could be scarce or plentiful when the game fully releases. Yeah, this is true. A lot of people are like, oh, you know, the gacha could be awful, or maybe the gacha will be good, but it's like, we really won't know. And the fact of the matter is, when Bleach Soul Resonance started, I skipped Toshido's weapon banner. I skipped it. Because in my head, even though it seemed likely that the rewards were going to be good enough, I went, no. The launch of this game might be really generous, but who knows what that'll look like in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. The reality of any gacha game, any mobile game, is you cannot really judge the pulling system until we actually see it sort of bear fruit. And we can't see it bear fruit until, you know, a month in, 2 months in. Is this going to be how the content releases? Are they actually going to release stuff every month, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, every 1 week? Like, what does that actually look like? Usually in Japanese gachas, there's a lot to do because they tend to be, like, especially within the IP, they tend to be more financially backed. But you don't get a lot from doing those things, so you need to accumulate rewards by doing everything. You need to do everything, you know, even if that means you're on Uma Musume for, you know, 6 hours a day. You got to do everything before the event ends, right? So we'll have to see, but I do think there's a good write-up of things going with the game right now as far as the CBT goes. A lot of people are like, it's a beta, you know, you shouldn't talk about these things. You shouldn't have complaints because they could change. Well, these things don't change unless you talk about them because they don't know what's wrong with the game otherwise, right? It's like, you could be like, well, just leave it, they'll fix it. And it's like, well, they won't if we don't talk about it. Right now is my opinion, but it seems like a 2021 gacha with a 2026 graphics. Yeah, it's definitely a game that has like a really nice coat of paint, but visually pleasing but clunky game mechanics. Like if we have a true PvC system with these mechanics, I can imagine it just being horrible. Yeah, it's like if this doesn't get adjusted and I guess these two blocks don't get adjusted in some meaningful way, the game just won't be fun to play. And that's the worst thing a game can be, is just like not fun to like press your buttons in. That's like the most damning thing for a fighting game. And even though you could say, I mean, obviously, as someone who plays actual fighting games, you could be like, well, Dragon Ball Legends and Mirrors High aren't meant to be like actual fighting games. It's like, well, that's what they're replicating. When you release like Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm, you know, it's trying to imitate like what an actual fighting game is, like an arena fighter. When you release Sparking Zero and it's not complete, it's like half complete and it costs $80 fucking, and you know, you're releasing DLC alongside it immediately, and Android 19 and Dr. Gero are the best characters in the game by far, and you know, people are just stalling, and Yajirobe and Master Roshi are just stalling out your Gogeta, and you can't play the game because the entire game is just stalling. Guess what? You made an unfun fighting game, and you'd be like, well, it's just a game about shooting Kamehamehas, and it's like, well, what the fuck am I going to shoot Kamehamehas against? The bots? Just not a big fan of PvP gacha. What gacha rates, you know, spade run? Sadly, not sadly, because, you know, I don't want games to EOS because, you know, this could be someone's favorite mobile game. Sadly, that gacha rates never really affect IP Japanese gacha games. As long as VSR keeps up the quality, it honestly has nothing to worry about from what I've played so far. Don't think it's even a quality issue, it's a design issue. BMH is nearly a decade-old game using the skin from BRS. Yeah, it definitely feels old, man. Yeah. Mid and BSR is a pretty better gacha system. Game feels like released 5 years ago, 5 years too late. Gameplay is pretty shallow. I definitely play as the story looks interesting, but I can't see me investing more into it. Yeah, I think right now, my plan for Mirrors High, depending on when it releases, is to go in, probably get the monthly pack because it is going to be a Japanese gacha, and I just want to have the ability to pull on, like, if not every character, at least every other character. That way I can make videos and, you know, help people out who are like pure free to play and maybe even low spending. But low spending in Japanese gacha usually is in the hundreds of dollars. So hey, you know, good luck there. I'm not going there. I'll continue to be the person who just pulls up with free-to-play guides and sort of, you know, guidance. But yeah, right now there are a lot of problems with Mirrors High. This isn't on no hater shit. Genuinely, I want to play this game. I want this game to release. If this game was released, I'd just keep playing as it is right now. I'd be putting up videos, but there just wasn't much meat on the bone for a beta. So there's not much to make about the beta, right? I don't have a lot of things to say about it. I don't have a lot of things to do in it. I could make more videos of me fighting bots, but that's not very interesting. And yeah, so those are some things. Those are some light thoughts on the Bleach Mirrors High beta. I think that as a I know Giku gave it like a 6 out of 10. I know other people are kind of giving it like a 6. I've seen people give it an 8 out of 10. Ew, no. I would actually go lower. I don't want to say it just because, again, I don't want to be on no hater shit. Because I do want to play the game, but it was not a very good beta. Especially when you compare it to other betas. I mean, I played a game, I think it was like Star Saviors or Sailors or something. It was like a generic fantasy slop gacha. And it literally crashed, like went to maintenance every 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, the game would have you load to the home screen. And that game had a more fleshed out vision of itself than I felt the CBT for like Mirrors High did, which is staggering. So I hope I don't know. I wouldn't mind playing it as it is with a few modifications, and again get rid of the hourly restriction, or, you know, unlock the, you know, real-time PvP. But if it released and the only thing to do with it was a chapter of story and PvP AI with a 6-hour delay, I'd be shocked. Again, I've seen a lot of things say end of summer for this game. It could be as soon as, you know, TYBW ending in BSR. It could be that quick, right? It could be that quick. So we'll see. We'll see. But I don't think the changes they have to make. I think that they've locked a lot of the content because they don't want you to spend. It was weird. I guess I keep flubbing over my points, but I thought they put one chapter of story in because they wanted us to test the PvP so that we could have, you know, our complaints and our criticisms and our positives about it. And that way we would have they could, you know, alter it, because the story seems strong. You make a visual novel, you add some fights in it. That's Dragon Ball Legends, right? That's, whoa, you know, great art and stuff like that. But keeping us from playing the PvP is just like, well, that's kind of scary. Because now it's like, well, what are you holding back? Like, what did you hold back for? So, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I've been Lone, though. Like if you like the video, subscribe to it, a couple people go make it, and peace.